Greetings, everyone, and welcome to ACEDS Data Unmasked, streaming live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Mike Quartararo. I am the president of ACEDS. Today, we're going to be joined shortly by Nate Latessa, who's the Chief Revenue Officer at HaystackID. Haystack, of course, is a legal service provider that provides professional services in e-discovery, information governance, cybersecurity. You can visit HaystackID.com to learn more about their offerings. Haystack is, of course, also a valued partner of ACEDS, and we like to showcase what our partners are doing. So every month we invite professionals like Nate to join us and discuss what's happening and what's trending in the industry. All right, let's get into it. Nate, thanks for making time to join us, and welcome back to the broadcast.
Absolutely. This is my second or third time now, so it's good to be back.
I think second, but all I remember is it was about a year ago, in January 24.
Yeah.
And I understand since then you've been elevated to the Chief Revenue Officer at Haystack. Let's start by talking a little bit about that. How's it going? Being the CRO at a big company like Haystack has challenges. Are you enjoying the ride is my question.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great company to start with. And, I started here as the Executive Vice President of Advisory Services, and we grew that business here. And, continuing on that success, I took over as the Chief Revenue Officer. So, now responsible for, really driving revenue growth across all the revenue engines, right? Sales, client expansion, go-to-market execution. And then, continue to build on that advisory practice that we started that has really blossomed. So, my focus now is just on accelerating revenue across the broader business by tightening up the sales operations, improving pricing and margin discipline, expanding our high value differentiated offerings, and really, turning strategy into predictable performance, right? Strengthening our pipeline quality, growing wallet share and key accounts, and really enabling the sales team and the sales ops teams with better tools and processes, and building repeatable motions, right, in priority verticals and new markets that we're looking at.
So you've been taking it easy, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't, it's interesting because, as you build a career, you feel like you're doing everything you can do. And then someone comes to you and says, hey, you'd be good for this. And, you think about it, and that's a heck of a lot more responsibility, but you find a way to sort of work it in, right? And you make it work. We're going to get into leadership a little bit. First thing I want to ask you about is you and your colleagues have been talking about something that you're calling corporate data intelligence. Yeah. For those who don't know what that term means, what is it and why is it becoming so important?
Yeah, so big picture, corporate data intelligence, it's really the capability to understand, govern, and activate your enterprise data across all the systems, right? Not just for compliance or e-discovery, but to drive faster decisions and reduce risk. So it kind of sits at the intersection of data, legal, cybersecurity, privacy, and operations, right? Using modern platforms and analytics to turn messy distributed information into signals that you can trust and depend on, right? It's becoming critical because organizations are like, Mike, they're drowning in volume and velocity of data, right? You've got collaboration data, cloud apps, log files, all this new AI generated content, and then, cross-border operations just further complicates it. So, companies that want to win, those are the ones that can answer really 5, basic questions, quickly. Where's the data? Who owns it? What's sensitive? What's required to keep? And what can we defensively delete, right? And that's really the foundation for readiness, resilience, and efficiency.
And it makes perfect sense, frankly. I mean, our whole industry is driven by the data that corporations have, right? That's
exactly
the foundation of e-discovery. Like, this doesn't exist without that. So,
right.
What, in your view, are some of the biggest challenges you see organizations facing when it comes to their data today?
So I think it's less about not having tools and more about sprawl and ambiguity, right? Data's everywhere. We've got 365, it's on endpoints, SaaS applications that maybe weren't really developed with e-discovery in mind, file share still, messaging apps, log files, but there's no single source of the truth, right? Nothing exists. Ownership's fragmented, right? You've got legal, IT, security, privacy, and really just the business in general all have legitimate priorities, but no shared operating model, right? So retention is inconsistent, which creates cost, risk, and chaos. When you discover or when a legal matter hits. And now with AI, the stakes are even higher, right? If your data isn't classified and governed, you're essentially feeding Copilot or whatever AI tool you're using, an uncontrolled information diet.
That is a perfect segue to my next question, because shouldn't organizations, if they're not already, shouldn't they begin thinking differently about how they're managing their data pre-litigation, before a legal event, and versus sort of the reactive approach? Shouldn't there be a more proactive approach?
Absolutely, Mike. I think you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, right? It's companies need to treat the before matter like fire prevention, right? You need to design it, test it, and operation.
A smoke alarm.
Yeah, right. It's not like an emergency drill you do once a year, right? It's preparations about building a defensible program, right? So foundational things like data mapping, document retention, document classification, access controls, auditability, repeatable workflows for legal holds and preservation. So that once a matter is active, then the mindset shifts to speed and defensibility, right? Scoping, preservation, targeted collection, analytics, and production, while managing risk, privilege, privacy, and deadlines, right? So the problem, in many companies is they try to build the program during the emergency, right? Yeah. The winners are going to be the ones that separate readiness work from response work, and they connect them with clear playbooks.
And the challenge, as I see it, I talk to people across the industry all the time, and I think the challenge is that we've got these, not only has data exploded, but there's all kinds of new, what I call, non-traditional, data, and chats, videos, logs, collaboration tools. Has this changed? And now AI, forget it. I don't even know what's going to come out of that yet. It remains to be seen. Is this changing the way that we approach discovery as an organization that provides services in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, years ago, it felt like e-discovery, at least the forensics felt like it was being commoditized, right? It was file shares and laptops and things like that. But now, you've got all kinds of different data sources, and it lives in different places. It's conversations, it's context, it's telemetry and things like Teams chat, Slack, Zoom, shared links, cloud applications, access logs, ticketing systems, ephemeral messaging, right? It's all over the place. And, I think to your point about what AI, what the impact of AI is, when you look at tools like, Microsoft Power Apps, right? Where you can give it some prompts about an application that you want to create, this, I guess, like citizen development, where I could say, go create a ticketing system or go create some type of application. And now with tools like Copilot, when you overlay that, you've got potentially, users in your organization that can create their own custom apps very easily without having any development experience. So I think, look, this changes everything, right? Teams have to preserve and review data in context. We need to correlate communications with actions and understand, who did what, when, and from where. And it pushes organizations towards connectors, metadata-driven workflows, analytics that can unify different data sources without turning every single e-discovery matter into a bespoke engineering project.
And it seems to me, my recollection is that Haystack started as sort of a traditional e-discovery provider, but the world has changed. You've become more known for sort of high intensity things like second requests and cyber breaches and things like that. How has your advisory work changed and expanded beyond the sort of the traditional, e-discovery, collect, process, review, produce?
Yeah, I think the high intensity discovery, those high stakes matters, that's our core, and we'll always, be good at that. But the advisory work has really expanded, upstream into areas that determine outcomes, right? Like governance, complex regulatory response, privacy, cybersecurity, AI readiness. And now, recently we just rolled out our AI governance program, where it's helping clients set policies, controls, and oversight, right, to use Gen AI responsibly and defensively. So really the goal, for us is simple, right? Make organizations faster, more defensible, and less reactive, when pressure hits. So, a lot of the work now is helping clients build repeatable systems, the operating models, the tooling strategies, the defensible retention, and things like 365 and, configuring that, creating cross-border workflows, matter readiness programs, so they aren't reinventing the wheel under pressure. So, really the goal is to reduce time to answer, reduce outside spend, and reduce risk, right? While improving how the organization actually uses all this data that it has.
Yeah, and you mentioned, Microsoft 365. A lot of organizations have invested very heavily in platforms like that. But from my conversations around the industry, people are still struggling to use the M365 platform effectively for things like the governance piece, litigation readiness, e-discovery. What are we overlooking here? What does the industry need to know about Microsoft 365 that we're sort of missing?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, people, it's a M365 is a massive investment. Whether you're on E3 or E5, which is a huge step up, you're talking about a lot of money. And what I've found is that most organizations really aren't even taking advantage of all the features and functions that they have available to them, right? So I do think they overlook some things though when we're talking about readiness, right? They overlook configuration, they overlook operational ownership, and really that end-to-end workflow. They'll license all these powerful capabilities like purview and document retention and the e-discovery pieces and audit and sensitivity labels, but they don't align the policies to real business scenarios, right? And they don't maintain them, and they don't connect them to all the legal and security processes, right? And I think they also underestimate, how much readiness matters before AI adoption, right? If sensitivity labels, access controls, and retention aren't working, you've created a governance gap that AI will expose instantly. And I was just giving a talk on Copilot, and it was interesting. Somebody brought up a story about a law firm that had rolled out Copilot and just didn't, do anything around governance or configuration in 365. And the first day, somebody asked Copilot, how are partner bonuses at the end of the year calculated? And Copilot said, I don't know, but maybe this document will help you. And it was basically an Excel spreadsheet of all the partner bonuses. So it exposed, immediately, a gap that AI had access to.
And there's so much fragmentation across internal departments. I mean, think about it: IT, security, legal, privacy teams. Your everyday employees, what they're creating and storing, and so when you walk into an organization, how are you helping to bring these groups together? Do you sit down and literally have like a team meeting and say, okay, all you folks, here's how we get it together?
Yeah. Well, look, I think it starts where you bring these groups together, right, and create a shared mission and a practical operating model, right? Legal wants defensibility, security wants, risk reduction, privacy wants compliance, IT wants, stability, and the business wants speed, right? That's really the common denominator, though, across all of them is that trusted data, controlled risk, and repeatable execution. So we typically start with, clear governance structure, right? Escalation paths, measurable outcomes, and then build a joint roadmap that ties to controls, to real events like investigations, litigation, DSARs, which, we're seeing a lot of that now, insider risk, and breach response. And when teams see that same foundation, it helps all of them, right? And alignment gets a lot easier.
Yeah, it's usually after a project, people see the value of what you learned in a project, right?
Yeah.
And so you mentioned things like DSARs, and I think it's probably more common in the U.S. today, but more common in like nations in the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
And so these cross-border issues, they can get complicated really quickly. What do organizations need to understand about operating across different legal jurisdictions and the regulatory landscape that encompasses all the different nations of the world?
Yeah, I mean, they get complicated quickly because you're balancing litigation obligations with privacy, labor laws, data transfer restrictions, local regulatory expectations, right? So organizations need to understand that, just collect everything centrally is, it's not realistic, right? Or it's not even lawful, right? So the practical approach is early scoping and minimization, local counsel alignment, controlled processing environments, defensible transfer mechanisms, right, were required, and really strong documentation, right? The goal is to meet legal requirements while respecting all the jurisdictional constraints without losing the ability to move quickly.
I want to ask you, Nate, about leadership because I think it's important. You know, there's a younger generation coming up that's looking to folks like yourself and trying to find their career path in this industry. And so what kind of guiding principles really shape your leadership style? How have they influenced the way you lead and drive growth within your company, but growth as an individual, as a business person, a leader, and so forth?
Look, I think, my leadership style is defined by, a few principles, right? Clarity, accountability, trust, and really pace, right? I'm big on setting a clear, why, simplifying the execution plan and empowering strong people with real ownership. I think we hire some of the best people in the world here at Haystack, and, we want to let them, put them in an environment where they can be successful and have that ownership. I also believe that culture is built in small moments, right? It's how we communicate, it's how we handle pressure, how we treat our clients, and how we treat each other, right, when the stakes are high. And look, I think that approach is a big part of how we scaled at Haystack, right? We've looked at productizing what works, we build repeatable operating models, we stay close to client outcomes, and we push the organization to think beyond traditional discovery. So I think the people here, they've got a lot of freedom to think big, and they've got the support of the team to do that. So, growth here is never just sales. It's execution, it's credibility, and the ability to deliver when, consistently at a high standard.
One quick question, because I think a follow-up is that, it's for a lot of organizations, it's review season, and how do reviews play into how you think about subordinates, managers, the everyday line worker? How do they factor into, your leadership style, your communication style?
Yeah, I think reviews, for me, it's a review of what we talk about all year. I'm a big, I like our one-on-ones. We do regular one-on-ones and everybody knows where they stand. So when you get to review time, there shouldn't be any big surprises, right? I think these are things that we all work on throughout the year. And I think it's important for all of us to set goals and make sure that in those one-on-ones we're following those goals. And at the end of the year, it's just kind of a review of that, right? It's kind of like a, business review. It's a personal review of how they did. But I think it's important that you have those regular touch points so that it's not end of year, at that point, it's tough to course correct. It's, if you wait till then, it's kind of too late.
You're wrong for 12 months and then somebody tells you it's wrong.
Exactly. So I do believe in the one-on-ones don't need to be weekly. They could be, bi-weekly or monthly, but as long as you have them and they're meaningful, it should be about, what the expectations are, that person's career path and what they're working towards, not so much, all about the business, but, it needs to be about them and helping them grow and expand and making sure that as a leader, that I'm giving them the opportunity the opportunities to grow and expand their career.
Yeah.
And it's to hold me accountable as well.
Exactly. All right. We're almost out of time, but it would be remiss of me not to include here some question about your presence at Legal Week, which is coming. Any other events? What are you excited to see, learn, do?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think Legal Week, we'll see. This is the first year we're not at the Hilton, so I think everybody's curious to see how this is going to play out at the Javits. But we'll have a big presence there, and excited to for that. We'll be at the UF Law conference down in Gainesville, Florida, coming up at the end of February. So
I forgot about that. Jeez.
Yeah,
they're gonna have my head.
That's my first one. I've never been, so I'm excited to go to that.
Oh, it's a great program, and it's so educational. It's an academic setting, and it's so good.
Yeah, so I think we're conference season obviously just kind of ramping up here, but I'm excited to see everybody. It's been since maybe November, I guess, since we said our goodbyes for the year. So looking forward to seeing everyone here and starting the year off.
Anything we wanna tease? I gotta add.
I think you'll see some stuff coming out. I think we're excited about, we've been expanding in EU. We just made a hire over there for beachhead into our London and EU practice. So exciting news on that front. And we've got a couple new service offerings, like I mentioned, the advisory side around AI governance, which we're getting a great response on. So excited about some of the new offerings that we've got.
Awesome. Listen, proud to call you a friend. Thanks for coming in today. How do folks get in touch if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, hit me up on LinkedIn or just Latessa at HaystackID.com.
Awesome. Nate, this has been great. Thanks again for joining us. If you are interested in our short form video interviews like this one, you can find Data Unmasked and our We Are ACEDS series in your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter feeds, or wherever else you get your video content, or check out the ACEDS YouTube channel, which you can where you can watch previous interviews. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Have a great day and be kind to one another.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mike.
All right.